an aggravated.
What? Filming someone in a public place? Is that legal? Is that legal?
Stay away.
Is it illegal? Is it legal? What have I done that's legal?
You're causing issues at the moment.
What, filming? I'm filming. That's it.
What's the issue being here?
We've asked you nicely.
Yeah, no, but if you ask nicely, I can refuse, right?
Auditors, those upstanding members of society that take the day off work to stand outside of buildings to record the goings on in the name of public interest and transparency. And definitely do not do it purely for the sake of antagonising security personnel, antagonising police officers in order to boost their social media profiles. Because who would do that?
Why have you got a drone over our building and why are you taking photographs?
What are you filming? You need to film.
What are you filming? Have you got permission?
When questioned, auditors will generally quote legislation, the law, and expect officers to rattle off any obscure reference or law that they happen to think of.
Hostile reconnaissance, is that the textbook definition?
I don't know what the textbook definition is, but that's the definition.
Okay, so it's not the definition, okay, and it involves covert recording. So this isn't covert, this is overt.
Reconnaissance doesn't have to be covert.
Okay, so if you knew the textbook definition, then you wouldn't have said that.
Demanding officers to identify themselves and even to remove certain parts of their uniform, such as the thin blue line insignia.
Thing that looks similar to a flag.
That?
Yeah, is that police issue?
It's a thin blue line.
Is it police issue?
No, that was
It's
personal.
not part of the uniform. You know, some people find that offensive. I spoke to your colleague at the back gate.
Do you find it offensive?
I do find it offensive. Can you take it off, please?
No, I'm not going to take it. What do you...
Claiming that they find it deeply offensive, which is essentially to see whether the officer will comply so that therefore they can feel justified in antagonising the officer further, calling them a disgrace, saying that they do not uphold their oath properly, that you're a public servant and you have to do what I say, and all the other usual bullshit. Now, the entire purpose of these interactions is to see if the officer will react. The auditor, even though they will deny this, will intentionally antagonise the police officer in the hope that the police officer reacts or stop searches them or arrests them or uses some kind of force in order for the auditor to get good content and for them to go home and salivate over the content they have garnered. Now, auditors believe that they are invulnerable to being prosecuted. This is a public space, you can't possibly do anything, I'm not breaking the law. But we're going to discuss why that isn't entirely correct, why auditing in itself is quite immoral and somewhat dangerous, and why an auditor who claims that they are offering a service to the public is an utter hypocrite. So what is auditing? In general, an auditor will stand outside of a public space and they will film either a police station or some kind of secure building. The entire reason why they are there is in the hope that they will be challenged. Therefore, they can record the interaction and then they will put that interaction on social media or on YouTube in order to garner attention, views, clicks, etc. Essentially, they're the talentless kid at school who used to enter the talent show every year, piss everyone off, and then keep going back because they enjoyed the attention. The auditor will stand on public land, hit record, and then wait until somebody tries to challenge them over what they're doing. And this is where the fun begins. The auditor will often cite that they are on public land and therefore they are free to record, claiming that the sole reason why they're doing it is for public interest and for transparency. Yeah, that's not true, is it? Now, these people generally have good quality knowledge of the law and good quality knowledge of their rights. And importantly, they know exactly what the police can and cannot do most of the time. So here's a big question. Can somebody be arrested for simply recording in public? If an auditor is just standing on public land, filming a location, there is little the police can actually do. If that is in fact all they are doing, which is actually rarely the case. And there is no specific law against auditing, sadly. However, through the act of auditing, other laws can be broken. Auditing itself can raise safety concerns, and the utter hypocrisy of an auditor's behaviour can become quite apparent. If the police suspect that the auditor has other motives, such as maybe checking out a secure location in an attempt to break into it later, or some kind of terrorist intention, the police can stop and search the auditor relating to specific legislation. Well, I did not consent to that legislation, I did not consent to the Act of Parliament. Consent to it or not, it's the law. Deal with it. However, often auditors know what the power of the police are and they almost want to be stop searched because then that creates nice juicy content for their social media channels. And auditors have actually successfully sued the police relating to a stop search which they deemed was unlawful and illegal, and they've received a payout. Nice to know really that the auditors are filming for the transparency of the public and then they are antagonising the people who are there to serve the public, and then when that happens they sue the people who are charged for protecting the public, and then they take the money from that lawsuit which was also provided by the public. Great public service there, guys. Now, if the auditor is recording the police and the auditor becomes aggressive, obviously the police can arrest them under public order offences. However, it's very unlikely that the auditor will do this because they know exactly what they're doing. Everything what they do is very intentional. They are there to antagonise the police and not get locked up by the police. They want the police to overextend their powers. And through doing that, they can then make great social media content. There is also the act of trespassing. Actually, you're wrong, pal. And trespassing has no power of arrest as it is a civil matter. Oh, you got me. Of course, trespassing is a civil matter, but aggravated trespass is not. Now, what is aggravated trespass, I hear you ask? Well, I'm happy to oblige. I'm feeling very giddy today. I think I had too much coffee before I started filming this. Aggravated trespass is an offence in UK law defined under the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994. It occurs when somebody trespasses on land or in a building with the intent to intentionally obstruct or disrupt the activities of a person on that land or in the building, or intentionally intimidate or harm someone in their use of that land or building. In layman's terms, if somebody is just on property what they're not allowed to be on, yes, that's trespass and that is a civil trespass. However, if their behaviour prevents a police officer from doing their job and that they have to come out and challenge the person and they are told to leave and they do not leave, then it becomes an aggravated trespass due to the person's behaviour is obstructing and causing issues with the people who work there. You get me? You get how there's a difference there? And there has actually been a case in point in relation to aggravated trespass. In August 2021, Lee Trench, a YouTuber vlogger, was arrested and charged with aggravated trespass after entering a Macclesfield police station car park, filming police vehicles and refusing to leave when asked. He was later found guilty and given a 5-year criminal behaviour order, CBO, prohibiting him from entering police premises or wearing a balaclava on or near them. So yes, of course, trespassing is a civil matter and does not carry a power of arrest, nor can it be prosecuted. However, when it comes to aggravated trespass, the auditor's behaviour can be as such that it moves into the realm of criminality. And as this auditor found out, it comes with some quite hefty consequences. And this doesn't apply just to police stations. In the legislation, it doesn't say anything specifically about police stations. So say someone goes into the reception area of a hospital and they start filming everyone around, which I don't know why you'd want to film people when they're at the hospital. Bit weird, won't lie. If the auditor then begins antagonising people and their consent to be on that premises is revoked, they are then a trespasser. Public building, open to the public with the consent of the owners of the building, act like a dick, you're no longer allowed to be there, you then become a trespasser. If you then continue to act in such a way that security or the police have to be called, you can then be arrested for aggravated trespass. Are you following along with me? I'm very happy that we're learning today. This can also go for shopping centres, banks, etc. Now, does an auditor, if they're not committing a criminal offence, do they have to provide their details to the police? The answer is no. You don't have to provide your details to the police if they request it, if they don't have a legitimate reason for asking it. But if you are suspected of acting in an antisocial manner, for example, you filming people is causing upset or disruption to other people, then you can be required to provide your personal details when requested by an officer under Section 50 of the Policing Reform Act 2002. But again, this only applies if you are suspected of acting in an antisocial manner. My personal favourite one is when the police are off doing their thing, they are investigating an incident, they are actively trying to arrest somebody, they are stop searching somebody. And as I talk about in my book, The Job is Fucked, things can turn from calm to deadly quite quickly. So the officer, for their own safety, has to have their mind on the game about what the suspect's doing and not on Mr. Auditor, who decides that, you know what, this is the best time to possibly get some content for their channels and walk over and begin filming, demanding names, demanding where they're stationed, demanding what they're doing and what has he done wrong and why is he being arrested. Essentially, if you begin to obstruct what the officer's doing in the lawful exercise of their duty, you can be arrested for that. And quite rightly so, because you're essentially just putting officers at risk and, you know, why would you do that? When it comes to filming outside of courts, this isn't inherently illegal as it's a public space. If you're on a public space and you're filming the courts, then that's generally fine. Unless the court have a order in place which says that you can't do that. So if you go to a court and you begin filming, you will be told to stop, and if you continue because there is a court order in place, then you are breaching and you can be held in contempt of court. This happens when it is a particularly sensitive case, and we'll get more onto why you probably shouldn't be filming people going in and out of court or police stations anyway. When it comes to safeguarding concerns, there are quite a myriad of different things which, you know, you probably shouldn't be doing. Filming a police station could potentially put officers at risk, and if you don't give a fuck about the police, then, you know, that's your prerogative. But if you claim to be there to serve the public, maybe don't film the public and the witnesses and potentially vulnerable victims that are going in and out of the police station. Because if you were to film a police station and then you put that on social media or on YouTube, and then somebody watches that video and they see their friend or their partner, or it could be some gang affiliation or maybe something to do with terrorism, they see that person is going to and from the police station, it can potentially put them at risk. When it comes to court cases, people probably don't want to be known that they're either on a jury or that they are a barrister or a judge, etc., because that can open them up to all sorts of issues: intimidation, coercion, and even threats of harm. And plus, if someone's having the worst time of their lives and they have to go and testify about something particularly sensitive, they probably don't want to be on social media doing that. Just saying. But I get filmed by CCTV cameras when I walk down the street and I don't want to be. And this is true, but there's a difference between you walking to fucking Asda and you being filmed going into a court case talking about something sensitive or upsetting, and then your face being plastered all over social media. So to quote a phrase I've heard a few times in my life, same thing, but very different. And when it comes to filming banks, secure buildings, cash processing centres, you could potentially compromise people's safety who work there, in the sense of organised criminal gangs with tiger kidnappings and targeted attacks. So again, not illegal, but a bit of a dick move. Now, when I have dealt with auditors in the past, they've generally been okay. Yes, they try and tie you in knots, and yes, they want to know your name, badge number and shoe size and all the rest of it. I just give them that information, ask what they're doing, and then they go, oh, we're allowed to film here, and that's absolutely fine. You just crack on with your day and do what you need to do. Because the entire premise of an auditor's channel is to invoke outrage and to antagonise the police, if the police don't do that, if there's no antagonisation and no confrontation, then the auditor has no content, and therefore the auditor will just kind of disappear. However, if then of course their behaviour escalates, then they can commit a criminal offence and they can be arrested, charged, be given a criminal behaviour order to prevent them from doing this kind of thing again, and then their phone could be seized so the footage is never seen anyway. So it's a win-win. But my biggest problem with auditors is they claim to be there to help the public and to support the public for transparency and everything else, which, as we've already discussed, is secondary to why they're doing it. In reality, it's all to do with boosting their own public profile and making them money online. But that, of course, would be very cynical of me to say, and I'm sure I'm incredibly misinformed when it comes to my opinion on this. But my biggest problem with auditors is that while they're filming the police station and the police have to come out and challenge them, that police officer could be doing something else and could be helping other people. And they are normally the first to say, I can't believe you're wasting your time coming challenging me. Why don't you deal with some real criminals and go out and catch some murderers? Well, I'd love to. I'd love to go out and catch these murderers and burglars. But I'm here talking to you, and plus the police are being paid for by the public. So if a police officer has to go out and challenge an auditor, the public are paying for that. So claim for transparency and public interest over here, directly take away from the public they're claiming to serve over there. They both don't marry up to me. In essence, if you are an auditor, just, you know, maybe find a new hobby. Are you an auditor? Have you dealt with auditors before? Let me know what you think about my views and thoughts about this topic in the comments below. I'm always more than happy to hear both sides of the argument. You're an arsehole. Well, you know what? Maybe I am. But if you've got the right to go out and film people when they don't want to be filmed, I've got the right to comment on it. Keep watching this channel and have a fantastic day. Much love. Until next time, see you later.